So hey guys, I'm at Zenzo's house again today, and we're going to talk a little while from now about little crawly things, but I thought this little crawly thing would be worthwhile to have some B-roll of. His name is Captain. Captain! Oh, Captain! Yeah! He's such a little fur ball.
So funny thing is, Dean and I have the same dog.
Yes.
Kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Ooh, look it. El Capitan. So we're going to go talk about crawly things. Sound good?
Sounds
Crawly
good.
things? All righty. Let's do it.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Back here with Dean, Master Breeder. We should make a video one day about what that means, but not this time. Maybe next time.
Not this time.
But anyway, we were actually sitting down here in the fish room thinking about what we could talk about and kind of talking about lots of things. We've been down here for a couple of hours talking about our upcoming Peru trip and a few things. And we started talking about snails, and I thought that would be a good video to talk about or to make a video about because it's something that we both feel, we feel opposite on this, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about why we like or dislike snails. And obviously we're not telling you one way or the other. You guys can make your own decisions. And obviously for your own application, it might make sense to have snails or not to have snails. But I thought it would be interesting to hear a couple different perspectives on snails in the aquarium. So
True.
We'll start with you because you are team no snails, right?
I am team no snails, yes. Yep. Yeah. So in my fish room, there is one tank that has snails in it. Mm-hmm. And that's the planted tank that Lizzie did.
Okay, yep. And that's a nice tank.
Because I didn't have time to
eradicate
kill
the
snails before we put the plants in.
But that's a well-balanced tank. It's beautiful, right? I mean...
And I squished probably 10 snails a day or more.
That's good fish food.
So, it is, and the shrimp will eat the snails.
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
And that is really the only good thing about snails is they're good fish food when they're squished.
They are good fish food, which is one of the reasons why I like them.
Yeah.
So
why do I not like them, right? So there's lots of different types of snails.
Mm-hmm.
The main ones in the hobby are ram's horns, pond snails, bladder snails, and would you say
Malaysian trumpet snails? Yeah, and then you got like Nerite snails and all the other stuff. Yeah. But yeah, those are kind of the more predominant ones.
Okay, here's my big reason to hate Nerite snails.
The eggs.
I love how they look.
Right.
That's the only snail that I really like, except for I don't want my tank plastered with the eggs.
Yeah.
And I've heard if you get one that's never, that's like if you, I've heard that they are they asexual or I don't know. I've heard if you get one that has never reproduced, they won't lay eggs in your tank.
Okay.
But I don't know that for sure. But they do have kind of cool shells. But once they lay eggs, I'm done with them.
You don't like the sesame seeds all over the tank? I
mean, I've had driftwood that is just like freckled with them. Yes. And you can't get them off.
No, it's hard.
I took it out and took sander to it. Malaysian trumpet snails, a lot of people like those because they go down in the gravel, and I don't do a lot of gravel.
Right. You do a lot of bare bottom.
A lot of bare bottoms, a lot of breeding tanks.
Right.
And we'll get to the breeding thing. The whole breeding thing is probably one of my main reasons, maybe. The pond snails, you can't keep them from reproducing.
Yeah, they just
go crazy. And same with the bladder snails.
And the Malaysian trumpet snails.
And the Malaysian, So either way, they all are reproducing to such an extent that, in my opinion, get this, guys, it's my opinion. Please adopt this opinion. And if we can get all of the plant farms to not send their plants with snails, we would have a lot of better planted tanks out there.
Good luck with that.
I know, that would be impossible. And my opinion is that snails in the population that they happen in a fish tank can get to a population where they are creating more waste than what they're cleaning up.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
And one way you can try this is just take 8 or 10 snails and
Right.
put them in a quart jar of tank water
Mm-hmm.
and feed them like you normally would feed your fish, but a smaller amount.
Sure.
And see how much waste ends up in that jar in a week.
There'll be a lot of snail poop.
Right.
Yeah, there will be.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, your filter can break that down, but
Right.
it can break down fish poop too.
Yeah.
You did make one good point about the Oscar poop.
Yeah. So we'll
Because
get to
Oscar
that.
poop is big.
They're big logs. Yeah, we'll get to that. So you don't like them because they're waste.
Waste.
Yeah,
I believe, in my opinion, they create more waste
Okay.
than they actually clean up.
Right. And then you also don't like them because of eggs, right?
Well, especially the Nerites.
Right. No, but I mean, if you're in a breeding situation.
In a breeding situation.
Right.
Okay, so like and I've seen people that have copied my fry system that have snails in their fry tray.
Mhm.
But if you're hatching eggs in there, chances are the snails are going to get into those eggs.
Right, and they'll eat the eggs,
Yeah.
right?
So, and again, I'm looking at this from we're watching fish breeding in front of us.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this from a breeding point of view,
Right.
more so from an aesthetic tank point of view,
Right.
with the exception of the freckles. Those are not aesthetic to me.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I'm with you on the eggs of the Nerite snail, and I do have a lot of them.
Yeah.
Some tanks I don't have a problem at all with the eggs, and some I do. So maybe
just
there
depends.
is. It just
Yeah.
depends. But for me, I am team snail. I do like snails in my aquariums. In fact, I would think that almost every tank that I have probably
I'm
has.
looking around.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every tank that I have has snails in there. So I like them, I guess, for the reasons that you don't like them. So for one, I'm not really focused on breeding, so I don't need to worry about them eating the eggs, because there's nothing that I'm specifically trying to breed or quarantine the eggs from something that could harm them. And then also for me, I do find it beneficial for the balance of the aquarium. So even if they do produce waste, in my opinion and my observation, they break down the waste that I have to a waste that's more manageable for me. So as an example, we talked about the Oscars and Oscar poops. If you haven't seen an Oscar poop, they're big, not that big, but they're like, you can get you can look in the tank like, what is that thing? And it looks like a dead grub, and it's an Oscar poop.
They're like Lincoln logs.
Yeah, but I don't have them in my Oscar aquariums because I have a lot of Malaysian trumpet snails. They're in the substrate. They'll come up. They'll break down that poop. Yes, they will in turn create their own waste, but that waste is smaller. It's easier for me to bring out of the tank during water changes or doing any kind of vacuuming or get sucked up into the filter. So it becomes a lot more manageable. The other reason why I do like the snails is they do help in cleaning a little bit. So obviously, algae on the aquariums. I like to have my tanks aesthetically pleasing, good to look at. And a lot of my snails do a good job of breaking that down, especially the Nerite snails do a great job on the algae.
Yeah.
They're my favorite algae cleaner. And also they're a great food source for fish. So you did talk about smashing them for your shrimp or fish. And I have specific fish that need to have those, like my puffers as an example. So there are times when I'm purposely looking for a big batch of snails to where I can grab a handful of them or a net full and throw them in one of my puffer tanks so that they have food for a few days to kind of munch through and things like that. So
that would work really well, especially on trips.
Yeah, so
You don't have to worry about it, right?
Right. So when we travel, Peru will be a short enough trip. But if we were going to go somewhere longer, I could have my daughter feed some of the tanks, but some of the things I might worry about, like the puffers as an example.
Yeah.
And I can say, don't worry about that. There's snails in there. They can eat those and they'll be fine. So, but it is interesting to hear, someone who's super experienced that hates snails. I'm moderately experienced and I love snails. And I think you'll find people on both camps. I think Corey likes snails, right?
Corey loves snails.
Yeah, he likes snails. Yeah. Another thing is I like algae. A lot of people dislike algae. The only algae I dislike really is hair algae.
Right, that's the hardest one to rid yourself of.
It's the hardest
But it's also the easiest one to pull out if you just grab it.
Yeah, but
because you'll get everything with it, right?
The whole plant with it too sometimes.
See, and I don't mind algae so much either, except on the front glass.
Yeah, I don't like it on the front glass, but anywhere else I like it.
It can be on the wood, the rocks. I think even like we were talking earlier about our favorite company, Universal Rocks backgrounds.
Right.
Even when that starts getting that sort of small algae growth on it,
Yeah.
it starts making it look better.
It makes it look better, more natural.
More natural.
And it is good for the tank as far as balancing, and it does absorb nutrients out of
Yeah.
the water, right? So they're like
Yeah.
single cell plants kind of a thing.
So like in my fry tanks, which are typically the 10-gallon ones,
Mm-hmm.
I will let the algae grow on the sides, even on the bare bottom.
Right.
And I will only clean that about once every group of fry, let's just say. So
Right.
like, let's say I grow out 400 angelfish in that tank.
Mm-hmm.
When they go to another tank, I might scrape that down,
Right.
do a water change, and it's ready for the next fish. And then the algae will start building back up.
Right. Right.
Algae also has some natural things for fry in it. You know,
Mhm.
the microscopic bacteria. I've even seen where the baby brine shrimp will kind of get stuck on it,
Ah.
right?
It's like
and
a little
then
net
they
for
can
them
just
to, right.
the fish can just pick them
That's
off.
interesting. Interesting.
So,
yeah.
but that doesn't bring me to liking snails yet. I'm sorry, guys.
yeah, I don't think we're ever going to
We're not gonna
convert you
convince
on
me.
until we can
No.
develop a non-egg laying Nerite snail or something.
Yeah,
that's,
and we were actually talking about, is there a way we could scientifically prove this
right.
one way or the other? And I don't think there is. I mean, because both arguments work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because snails will break an Oscar's waist down to a smaller.
Right, or like an African cichlid with big poops, right?
Yep.
So
It'll break it down to a smaller poop, but it's still poop.
poop is yeah.
Yeah,
You're never
so-
going to get rid of the poop. You're just breaking
Right.
it down to more manageable sizes in some cases.
Right.
So, and I think there's like like we said, there's a case for both. Breeding
Yep.
situation. You're breeding discus or something for profit for a store. You don't want snails in there, or you don't
Yeah.
want them in the rice fish eggs and the mops.
Right.
But Oscars, other cichlids, more natural scapes, it might work. So
I will say one thing that I do believe is your fish, snails are not going to transmit a disease to your fish, I don't believe.
I've never seen it.
I've never
as
had
far
to-
as like any
yeah.
study or anything like that.
I mean,
yeah.
in the old days, they used to say, well, they can get hexamida because the snails poop on the bottom and fish that eat off the bottom.
Mhm.
But I don't, in my heart, believe that fish can get a disease directly from a snail.
Right.
It might be something that passes through a snail.
Mm-hmm.
But so, for those of you worried about that, you can keep your darn snails.
So anyway, comment down below if you are Team Snail or Team No Snail, because I'm sure this is going to be a divided
It's
audience.
very divided. I've seen
Yeah,
it many
yeah.
times. Yeah,
But it is
Yep.
fun to read, and
Yeah.
when you comment down below, just say why you like them or why you don't like them.
Yeah.
So, all right,
Yeah, great.
cool. All right, well,
All right.
comment down below. We'll check out the comments and we'll see who wins.